This is the free audiobook of Elemental Power. If you haven't heard the previous chapters, you'll find the link to the playlist in the description below. You can start at chapter 1 or just pick up where you left off. Book 1, Shattered. Chapter 23, A Wedding and a Warning. I entered our room to find the entire group waiting there. Glenn had gathered them while Worm was meeting with me. They all looked terrified. Even Peta, who could stare in the face of death and laugh, was wringing her hands anxiously. "What's all this?" I asked, coming to kiss Glenn's cheek. Peta stepped forward. "We have come to hear your decision." "Oh? What do you think I've chosen?" "We don't know," she said. "Only you can choose. We will stand by you, whatever choice you make." I sighed and sat next to Glenn, suddenly exhausted. "You do realize that I have no choice." "Not really. This has to be done. If I don't do it, then everything we've fought for has been for nothing. Gable died for nothing, and we're all bound to follow him at the end of 3 more moon cycles. Worm showed me the destruction of your world, and I can't bear to see it again. I couldn't even bear it then. Peta, you and Marlowe deserve a life together." They reached for each other, nodding. "Taryn and Avani deserve to raise their little mud pies." Taryn wrapped his arms around Avani, whose eyes filled with tears that overflowed. "The warlord made a mistake, and hopefully he'll make many more before we're through with him. Every time he shows me something from the future, he gives me the option of changing that possible course. I saw Glenn die in a dream last night, but now I know how to keep that from happening. I wouldn't have if the evil bastard hadn't shown me."
"We are with you, Alana," Boreas said. "My wife and I will stay with you, and we will continue on by your side."
"Thank you."
"I'm so sorry to say this," Taryn began, "but we will not be able to continue. Avani is with child," he announced, beaming with fatherly pride.
"Oh, that's so wonderful," I said, coming to hug both of them. "Not that you're not coming, but that you're having a baby. Congratulations."
"Thank you," Avani said, holding me tight. She whispered in my ear, "Thank you for your kindness. Taryn feels terrible, but I don't want to do this alone."
"You shouldn't have to," I whispered back. I felt the hollowness of my own womb. Glenn and I had been married for a while now, plenty of time to conceive, but my cycle came every 28 days like clockwork. I stole a glance at him, but he was too busy teasing Taryn. He'd been gentleman enough not to inquire, so far, and the further off I could put that conversation from me, the better. When the congratulations and general celebration had settled down, Marlowe stepped forward and said, "Peta and I are to be married, but we will continue on with you. I believe we may settle in the eastern lands when all this is over, if that's all right with you two." "I would like nothing more," Glenn said, shaking Marlowe's hand and hugging Peta. "I'm so happy for you," I said, hugging Peta in heartfelt joy. "All right, back to business," she commanded suddenly. Everyone stopped talking and looked at her. "There's planning to be done. When do we leave?" 4 days. We head back to the eastern lands. I'm not sure about how or when the Watchers will do their thing and contact the Creator, but I've done my part in that, I said. "Then we shall be married before then," Marlowe said. Peta smiled, and everyone cheered. "Tomorrow," he yelled, and we laughed. "I know the perfect place," I said. Peta placed her warm hands on my shoulders. "You are my honored witness and dearest friend. Arrange it. We will be there. I wish to be married when the sun paints the sky in flame. Tomorrow." "Done," I said, and we all drank and danced the night into morning. The wedding preparations were easy. Candlewick provided everything. She decorated herself lavishly with shades of orange and blue that complemented each other. No bold colors. She had taste. There were flowers like blue lilies and birds of paradise, water and fire together on nearly every surface. There were chairs adorned with garlands, all facing an intricately beautiful floral archway where the two would stand and speak their vows. Glenn was the honored witness for Marlowe. He wore a suit of sapphire blue. I wore a dress of pale orange. We looked amazing. joy lending a more fantastic quality to our appearance than our mere finery could produce. Peta was prepping in the bathroom, and I shooed all the men out of the main chamber. Come back just before sunset. And Glenn, please help everyone to their seats. We start on time, I said. Glenn nodded, kissed me quickly, and herded the men from the room. I sent the other women to find gifts for the happy couple. When Peta and I were alone, I helped her prepare. She didn't need makeup. She was a striking beauty without it. I just darkened her lashes a bit. Her hair was unwieldy. It floated up at the tips and refused to be bound in ribbons or pins. I managed to braid 2 small sections near her temples and secure them behind her head, along with a bird of paradise flower. It is the custom of fire sprites to have designs painted on our faces when we speak the binding. I brought some of the paint plant. Would you mind? She asked. Peta, I'm no artist, I said, horrified. Please, there is no one else. I began to wish intensely that somehow her parents could come, hers and Marlowe's. It was too sad for them to miss such an occasion. Their children were so happy together. I was reminded of that day in the woods, and I cleared my throat, ready to come clean with the secret shame I'd held for too long. I'll try, but I have something to confess to you. I was wondering when you would bring it up, she grinned. What do you think I'm going to say? Only that you came upon Marlowe and me in the woods and gawked like a couple of vipers rising from a basket. You knew? I felt my face turn pink and hot. I'm sorry, we just couldn't help it. We'd never seen anything like that before. That was the first time we kissed, she said, quietly, embarrassed. Really? Hell of a first kiss, I said. She laughed, her loud and forceful yeah, washing over my shame and making me clean again. It was, she agreed, tears forming in the corners of her slanted black eyes. Yes, it was, she said, calming a bit. I'm so happy for you both. It never would have happened if not for you. We owe you a great debt, she said, putting her hands in mine and becoming serious. Don't thank me till it's all over, I warned. There's still a lot to be done, and we're halfway through the time to do it in. We want to be there with you when the time comes. We will defend you with our lives, and happily, knowing the world will go on. It won't come to that. My voice was low and certain. I won't let it. She smiled, patted my hands, and reached into a little bag she'd brought. There was a bit of powdered plant that looked like dark brown dust. She handed me a bowl and a tiny paintbrush, took a bit of water, mixed it into the powder, and made a paste. It's best to start between the eyes and arch over the brows. You'll think of something. It doesn't have to be perfect, but I need it to be done. She leaned back in her chair, exposing her face to the late afternoon light shining in through the bathroom windows. I sucked in my breath, said a quick prayer, and made the first sweeping line. This was like henna. I'd seen women with henna tattoos before, but never imagined I'd be doing one myself. I could draw stick figures and ladybugs, but didn't think those appropriate for Peta's face. My hand shook a bit, and I pulled back to steady myself. Lord help me, I said under my breath. It got easier. The beginning was the hardest part. I made a sweeping line over both brows that met at a point like a widow's peak in the third eye area. I made little curls and dots off each line as symmetrically as I could. Then I duplicated that up again and again until her hairline. Then on her cheeks, I did much the same thing, but with more curly frills and a few leaves. I stepped back to admire my work. It wasn't half bad. Take a look. Please don't hate me, I said, pointing to the huge mirror by the archway. She stepped up to it and started fanning her eyes frantically. I can't cry. It will make the paint run, she said, her voice tight and anxious. I'm so sorry. I ran over to her. I did the best I could. I'm sorry. No, it's perfect. That's why I'm crying, dummy. Did you just call me a dummy? Thank you for this, Alana. It's beautiful. Anytime. I hugged her, avoiding the still moist paint. Now let's get you in that dress. The dress was a specialty design by Candlewick, a couture genius. It fit Peta like a dream and was made of cream-colored silk that shimmered with threads of gold and silver woven within it. It was free of busy flowers or beads or embroidery. The small bits of embellishment were done in such a classy way that I regretted not asking for a dress on my wedding night. It accentuated her perfect hourglass figure, and her orange hair floated around her shoulders and down, partially hiding the drastic plunge of the back of the gown. The hem floated a fraction of an inch above the stones, hiding feet clad in more cream. She looked incredible. I glanced out the window and saw the sun sinking low. Just then I heard Glenn ushering the others into the wedding chapel. "Peta, go over there so no one can see you, even if they peek," I said, and she moved swiftly behind a column. Glenn stood resplendently next to Marlowe at the entrance of the wedding tent. Marlowe looked amazing. He wore a suit of blue and cream with a blue lily in his breast pocket. The fabric of the suit was amazingly rich-looking. His ashy blonde hair was tidy and slicked back, his coral face just a bit pale, but excited nonetheless. "You look incredibly handsome, Marlowe," I told him, wrapping my arm around him and squeezing. "Peta is a lucky woman." "Thank you," he said. "I can't feel my feet." "Normal wedding day jitters," I said, laughing. "You'll do fine. Time to stand at your post. Is everyone here?" "Yes," Glenn said, and began to lead Marlowe up to the archway. I was turning back to the bathroom to fetch the bride when someone knocked on the door to the bedchamber. I hurried over and opened it to find 2 fire sprites and 2 water sprites standing there with confused looks on their faces. "Where are we?" the waterman asked. He was unmistakably Marlowe's father. They had the same neutral faces and bewildered expressions. "Come in," I said, hopping gleefully and hugging each person as they filed slowly into the room. "How did you get here?" The firewoman answered. "We were sitting down to dinner when we suddenly found ourselves in that hallway just in front of your door. Who are you, and where are we?" she asked, with the same ferocity in her eyes and voice as in her daughter's. "You are at the wedding of Peta and Marlowe. Welcome." They looked at each other with dazed faces all around. The looks of disbelief and confusion changed quickly to beams of joy, and the elemental parents hugged one another as congratulations poured like good champagne. "Now, I'm sorry there ain't much time to get acquainted. The wedding is about to begin. Marlowe's parents, you need to go inside the tent and greet Marlowe. He'll be so happy to see you. Peta's parents, come with me." The water sprites sprinted into the tent, and I heard the raucous cheers and greetings erupt through the canvas. I knew Candlewick was responsible for this. What a blessing she was. I led the fire sprites through the opening into the bathroom and called to Peta to come out of hiding. She peeked out from behind the column and squealed with delight, rushing over to her parents and squeezing them tightly. Her mother whipped out a handkerchief and blotted the tears from Peta's eyes before she could ruin the paint. "Who painted your bonding mask for you? It looks wonderful," her mother asked. "Alana did. She's my honored witness."
"You are beautiful, my daughter. I am proud and honored to give you away," her father said through a haze of tears. They had the same hair, Peta and her father. His was shorter, but still had the ends that floated independently. Her mother had darker hair, deeper red, and more tamed. "How did you get here?" Peta asked, mopping her eyes carefully. "Candlewick brought them," I said. "She must have heard my wish that they could be here. It's such an honor to meet you both. Peta is an amazing woman and a fierce warrior. She's saved my life a dozen times over." "Who are you?" her parents asked. "This is Alana, the Shattered One," Peta said, wrapping her arms around me. "And my dearest friend." "Oh my," her mother said. "Pleased to meet you." "What are your names? I don't want to call you Peta's mom and dad all night." I shook their hands, smiling along with them. "I am Auden," her father said, "and this is my wife, Idana."
His voice was worn, as if from years of smoking. He was littered with scars like me, a warrior in the winter of his life. "It's a pleasure," I said. "Now let's get this wedding started." Auden took Peta by the arm, and I went ahead of them with Idana to help her find a seat. I took my place opposite Glenn, who stood beside Marlowe, and nodded toward the door. Candlewick began playing music that sounded like a string quartet. It was incredibly moving. Wetness glistened in Glenn's eyes, and tears were spilling shamelessly from Marlowe's. His parents were crying too. Everyone was. Even I shed a tear or two. Peta came walking slowly up the aisle on the arm of her father, who looked so incredibly proud that my heart swelled. He kissed her cheek and led her to Marlowe, who received her gladly. It had been agreed that they would speak their heart to each other. Then Candlewick would give them a certificate of marriage like she'd given me and Glenn. I still had that piece of paper, hidden in a drawer of a dresser the tent provided whenever I needed a place to stash something.
Peta, Marlowe began. From the moment I saw you, I knew you would capture my heart.
Peta half laughed, half sobbed, and let a tear fall. The paint didn't smudge, but no one cared if it did.
You are dangerous, fierce, warm, and beautiful, he said, bringing her hands up beneath his lips. And I love you with every drop of my heart. I am bound to you forever. I am your prisoner.
The audience laughed. Peta took a deep breath. She wasn't one to show tender emotion, but when she did, it was intense. In a tremulous voice, she said, "You cannot be my prisoner, because you have captured me. You have flowed into my heart like a cool stream. I was born to be a warrior, and so that's what I've been. But when I saw you, I was defeated. You have me, all of me, forever." 2 golden rings appeared in Glenn's hands, and he held them up for Marlowe. Peta and Marlowe exchanged rings, and the certificate of marriage floated down between them. I caught it and said, "You may now kiss the bride." Everyone clapped and cheered, and the occupants of the tent overflowed with joy. The archway above them transformed from flowers into leaping arcs of the 2 elements, streams of fire and water twisting together over the couple. The 2 had become one. We gathered around them, hugs and kisses flying. The chairs disappeared, replaced by a table laden with goodies. In the center of it all, a gorgeous cherry and date cake, coated with coconut cashew cream, was displayed dramatically, with the figures of Peta and Marlowe on top, and flowers adorning the base. Glenn held my hand as the music began again, and Peta and Marlowe danced their first dance as husband and wife. I could feel the happiness pulsing from them. I was perfectly contented. My friends were happy, and we had 2 more days before we would leave. When Marlowe and Peta finally retreated to their honeymoon suite, everyone else found their way to their rooms. Gaia had joined us for the ceremony and found accommodations for the ecstatic wedding crashers. Glenn and I were left alone in our room once more. The afterglow of the festivities remained, and he twirled me round and round on our way back into our tent. Candlewick was back to normal. The decorations and food had all gone, and our giant bed was ready for us with our robes lying across it. You have truly outdone yourself, Candlewick. Thank you so much for everything. The tent walls moved in what seemed like a sigh of happiness. Glenn bowed deeply to her and said, "I thank you as well. You are truly a blessing." "I wonder what Marlowe's last name is," I said to Glenn as he began to pull off the fancy clothes to get comfortable again. "Sprites don't have last names," he said, smiling at my ignorance. "So only the other creatures do?" "Some do. Elves do. So did dwarves, but their last names were based on location. I'm not sure about gnomes." "It's an interesting question." "Do you have a middle name?" I asked. It had occurred to me suddenly that I didn't know. If elves have middle names, I mean. He was taken off guard. "I do. It's Monroe." "Interesting," I said. "Glenn Monroe Ellenville. I like it." I let my dress fall and put on my robe, hopping into the bed and waiting for him to follow. He did, flopping face down next to me and burying his smile in my long hair. I rubbed his back, weary but content. "I'm excited to meet your family," I said, working out a stubborn knot in his rhomboids. "I'm not as excited." "Ashamed of me?" I said, only half joking. "Never. It's only I'm a little ashamed of my family." "Nothing unusual about that. What's wrong with them?" He sighed, sitting up for conversation's sake. "Well, they're the king and queen of the eastern lands. I'm a prince next in line for the throne." My jaw dropped open. He put out a finger and pushed it back up for me. "You're kidding me." "I wish I was. I want nothing to do with the throne." "Well, tough titty. I don't want anything to do with the throne either, but here I am doing what I have to, being bowed to and fawned over, as you just stand there and chuckle. Tell you the truth, I'm looking forward to seeing you squirm for a change." "I bet you are," he said and kissed me. "But why did you not go to school if you're a prince? Didn't they want you educated if you're going to be king?" "They'd planned for me and Gable to share the throne. They had him trained in the clerical arts, while I learned the art of war. Together, we would have made a formidable monarchy. Now,
with what's happened. I don't know if they'll want only me.
Even though you taught yourself all the other stuff?
I really don't know. I suppose we'll find out soon enough. Certainly soon enough for my taste, he said with a monstrous yawn.
Yep, better get some sleep. It's been a long day, I said drowsily, and drifted off with a faint smile on my face. The thought of meeting Glenn's family filled me with curiosity and apprehension. Would they like me? They couldn't be as bad as he made them sound. I very much looked forward to watching him squirm. I found myself wandering through the corridors of my old school, the one with the turkey-necked man as my teacher. I was in my astral body, floating down the halls, searching for someone. I heard a cry of terror ahead and hurried through the shut door into a room full of the hooded monks. The nasty old man was there with a young man on the floor, face down, naked and seemingly dead, though I knew they'd never let him escape so easily. I saw his arms slowly move beneath him and push into a seated position. The voice of the warlord rasped from his face.
This one is easily broken. If the girl fails the test when she comes of age, he will do. I will use him for now. Come, we must make the proper sacrifice.
One of the hooded monks wrapped him with a cloak and led him out of the room. I stepped aside, not wanting to touch the child even in his spirit body. I saw the raven-black hair of Christopher Lords as a boy, programmed as I had been, shattered. A wizard appeared on the other side of the room, also in astral form. "Alana," he said. I floated over to him. I didn't know who he was or why he was there, but I trusted him. "I am Ambius. One day we will meet, but for now, I must warn you." "About what?" "What you're seeing here is the past. 10 years ago. You are a prisoner of these monks now. They are from my world, given bodies and purpose through the demon in that boy's body. They make you forget that you're a prisoner. Just remember, you are glued to your body. They cannot pull you out if you are glued to your skin. Remember that. When the time is right, I'll come to you again and help you escape. Be strong. You're our only hope." "What do you mean?" I asked, but he was gone. I floated back out the door and down the hall the way I'd come, ending in a door I knew was mine. I floated through it and entered a stinking cage of despair and filth, surrounded by butterflies. I saw my body there, just becoming a woman. I must be about 16, stretched out on the bed with my hands to my sides, in trance. I saw the TV in the corner and remembered what they used it for. Newfound determination filled me. I fell into my body and glued myself in. If you enjoyed this chapter, please give it a like and/or a comment. And if you think someone else might enjoy the story, please share with them the first chapter. If you subscribe and turn the notification bell on, you'll be the first to know when the new chapter is released.